Hi, I'm making this video to address the issue I'm having with my solar panel. I have a 200 watt solar panel on the top of my van and a 100 amp hour AGM sealed glass matte battery. This charge controller I have connected is just a cheap one from Amazon because the issue had been happening with my nicer charge controller from Victron. So basically what happens is I'll register a pretty decent amount of voltage from the panel, like 17 volts, and as soon as I connect it to the charge controller, it'll just say whatever the battery's at, pretty much, or even lower. Testing this with a camera in one hand, and we get ourselves, let's say in 0, it's not touching, 12.8. Showing 12.4 is the battery, showing the solar panel's connected and that happy little battery's getting what it needs, but it won't charge it. With this 12.8, the battery actually goes down during the day. So I'll go ahead and disconnect this and we'll test them and see what we get. Alright, now we've been disconnected for just a couple of seconds and we're testing directly from the leads that come from the solar panel, and we've got 18.7 volts. So directly from the solar panel, 18.7 volts. As soon as I connect it to either charge controller, this one or the nice MPPT, this one claims to be an MPPT, but I don't think it really is because all the reviews say it's not. But when I connect it to the nice Victron one, the same thing happens. It'll just match whatever the battery's at and it won't charge it. Victron needs to be 5 volts above the battery's level, which easily 18.7 is, but with the battery being at 12.4. Brody, filming a video here, bud. And as you can see here, 12.2 on this little cheap battery monitor. So that's the issue. I don't know what's happening. As soon as I connect it, the voltage just drops. And I obviously have enough voltage. That's 18.7 volts coming off of a cloudy sky. It was working great for like 6 months, and then one day it just stopped. It was actually the day I connected that cheap battery monitor, but I've disconnected that and it doesn't change anything. So any help would be much appreciated. It might be my wiring. I'm using a pretty thick gauge wire coming from the battery to the charge controller. It's like 6/0, and then the gauge wire that I'm using from the solar panel to the charge controller is pretty thick as well. But the red one, the positive, is what came with the solar panel. So the black one's the only one that's been upgraded because I have a switch in between. I'll try and draw like a rough wiring diagram, see if that's it. Any help would be awesome. Thanks. Alright, just a quick demonstration to show how this happens every time. So this is the solar connected directly to the tester here. I've got 18.4 volts. And that's just stuck right in the sides of those wires. And the switch is on, allowing continuity. And this is the Victron app. We're connected to the Victron right now. This is the app showing 0 watts of solar and no volts, basically 0.01. Sometimes it will work for a little while and then it will just drop off. It won't work anymore. But sometimes it will work for a little bit, but not continuously for days. It'll just work for like a couple hours or maybe an hour. Anyways, let's try it out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the negative from the solar panel, and then I'm going to go ahead and connect the leads. Alright, the negative and positive leads from the solar panel are connected to the charge controller. And I'm going to go ahead and flip that switch, and we'll watch and see what happens. So it says from the solar we were getting 12.2 volts, whereas when we just tested it, it was at 18 volts, 18 plus. So we're getting 0 watts of solar because it won't charge unless the solar comes in above 5 volts above the battery. The solar's needs to register at 5 volts above the battery. So I mean, I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's my wiring. It used to work. I didn't change anything except for install a small LCD solar screen, or like a battery monitor, and I installed that directly into my fuse panel where everything else is installed. So that's just a DC device, and that's wired up to my bus block, my bus bar, negative and positive. And then the positive from the battery has a 20 amp fuse on it, and the inverter is connected directly to the bus bar, and the inverter has its own fuse in it. And then, I mean, this is just a bunch of fuses, so that's why it just goes to the bus bar. And then I have a mains on and off right there. Other than that, it's just solar to the battery. That's the only other positive negative going in there. Except for I do have a device, a DC to DC charger. Actually, it's a battery isolator, and that has its own on and off and its own fuse, 2 fuses. Pretty simple system, just not functioning on the solar side. Pretty much been relying on my battery isolator, and neither this charge controller nor the cheapo from Amazon did the trick, and Victron troubleshot with me and they replaced this. So this is a brand new unit and it's having the same exact issue. So I'm starting to think it's on my end. Obviously the panel's pulling what it should. So if anybody has any thoughts or ideas, that'd be great. Thanks.